thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time immensely. Something you said yesterday that actually really caught my ear in listening around the time of the panel discussion, where you said you didn't make Thrive to be popular. How would you fill in the rest of that? What's the real reason you made that from a heartfelt perspective?
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge that I'm really in a fantastic co-creative partnership with my wife, Kimberly, and we really made it together with a fantastic team. And we set out very aligned to use media to change the global conversation in beneficial ways. And we intended that the film be actually a trailer for the website. Because even if people see the film 4 or 5 times, which a lot of people are, still it's the film that you saw. But the website is intended to be a toolkit for the movement. Because from the beginning, the whole thing was about getting to solutions that are effective. And we didn't want to try to propose solutions until we really felt like we understood what was going on. And then we didn't want to tell what was really going on until we had solutions that were commensurate to the problem. So that's one reason why I was so old before I started making it, and then why it took us so long to make. But we don't regret a moment of delay, because it seemed like just the right time in the world, and we also felt confident that we finally knew enough to make a meaningful impact.
What would you say to the people that are part of like the Zeitgeist movement and the Jacques Fresco movement, the Venus Project? What would you say to those folks?
Well, first of all, congratulations on making a huge difference in the world. I meet people everywhere I travel whose minds were first opened by Zeitgeist. And we were in the middle of making Thrive when I saw Zeitgeist come out, and I was like, wow. You know, someone else is really onto this and doing a good job. And so I think that the challenge, the opportunity, which is being brought up by the existence of movements like the Zeitgeist movement and the Thrive movement and the Shift movement and Pachamama Alliance and on. There's just fabulous movements all over the world. And it's very rare that we agree 100% ideologically or strategically. And that is still creating a lot of division amongst movements. And to some degree, I really honor that, because, first of all, people spend years building a network of trust by being consistent in their behavior and honest in the way they treat people and so forth. So nobody wants to give up their email list casually to anyone else. So we're working on ways that we can collaborate without agreeing 100% and without breaking any of that trust. And so our solutions hub is helping people to find other people who are working on similar issues, and then to connect with one another, to share best practices, to share petitions, lawsuits, resources, and so forth. And we're encouraging movements to do the same thing, to create a network of networks so that the coordinators of each network can gate the information that gets dispersed. Because I don't want to pass on to my network information which would violate my morality or our strategies and so forth. But there's a tremendous, usually like 95% agreement amongst these groups. And if we can share that where we do agree, you know, getting fluoride out of the water and getting GMOs out of our food and chemtrails out of the air and having an honest money system, all this stuff that we can easily agree on, then the numbers that are taking action can multiply geometrically, and then the actions can be so coordinated, be like a global laser, and that's beginning to happen. So there are things which I don't fully agree with about the Zeitgeist strategy, and Peter Joseph and I have talked about that, and had fruitful discussions, and I look forward to continuing those with him and people who are doing other fantastic activist work all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. The say maybe like the post Thrive movement or since post any post Thrive ideas or things that you felt like, oh, maybe I left them out, or I wish I would have added it. Like any remorse that way, or things you want to comment on that?
That's an interesting question. I'm actually not sure I've been asked that in hundreds of interviews before, and I can delightfully say for both Kimberly and me, there's not a single thing that we would have changed about the movie. And it was because we really worked hard on that while we were making the movie. Almost everyone, even on our own team, wanted us to change or leave out something. But we weren't making that movie, as you said, to be popular. We were making it to help people get a comprehensive look at what's going on. Because if you pick any piece, you know, of conspiracy or free energy or UFOs or the banking scam, and so any one by themselves, particularly in a social conversation, makes you sound like a complete nut if the person doesn't know what you're talking about. But if you can get someone to sit down for 2 hours and watch an entertaining, high-quality movie that actually ties those pieces together, what we're finding is that people finish and go, and for a lot of people, they go, oh, I never saw the whole picture and how those things actually fit together and reinforce each other. And without really any marketing program other than just Kimberly and me doing interviews like this, the film has been documented over 20 million people around the world in under 2 years. And it's continuing at about 1 million a month and growing. So clearly people are trusting it. They're getting the coherence and then passing it on. Even though it's not an easy recommendation, people are literally doing it by the millions every day. So that has been confirmation to us that we didn't do the right thing or the wrong thing. What we did was the true thing for us, because we wanted to let people know enough that they could be alerted to really dire problems in the world, not to be panicked and run around paralyzed, but to get it so that you get beyond the lies of the corporate media, and then so that they could then choose, okay, what sector am I interested in doing something about it? And what level of engagement? Is it immediate needs or systemic change, or do I want to work on the consciousness shift? And then what issues do I specifically want to take on? And that's the toolkit that we're offering to people. And I'm happy to say that, you know, in about a year since we put up the solution stuff, we saw everywhere we went, people were spontaneously creating Thrive-inspired solutions groups, which warms our hearts. And so we put up a new section of the website to facilitate that, where they could collaborate very easily. And as of yesterday, I think there were 894 groups in 90 countries around the world. And they're working on about 120 issues, all independently, decentralized, self-starting, but collaboratively. And that, I think, is one of the main things we need to do if we're going to turn this thing around.
Mm-hmm. On a personal note, something I'm extremely curious about is when you talk to the Toral group people, they kind of maintain, hey, look, we need $3 million to get this off the ground, and you know, we'll have a working unit that, you know, we can get into production. And it seems to baffle the mind with how many billionaires and multimillionaires there are in the world that no one has stepped forward or stepped up to the plate to say to this group, we'll pledge that $3 million. How do you think that could possibly be in this type of world with that kind of hope and promise facing you with that technology?
Well, again, very interesting topic, because first of all, a lot of very wealthy people simply don't know this information yet. They've often made their money in the mainstream, or their social life is in the mainstream, or their job is in the mainstream, and they don't want to risk that, even if they have the opportunity to be exposed. That's beginning to change. But when we put Thrive out, and it went worldwide, it's now in 27 languages, we started getting emails and messages in social media from amazing inventors all over the world, hundreds of them, in over 250 in free energy alone. So it gives you a sense of the creativity that is going on out there. And so at the same time, the movie also impacted a lot of wealthy people who have not been successful, no matter how much money they've got, in really making an impact on stopping this train wreck that this global economy, the environment, the poverty, everything is right now. And so a lot of them have approached us as well. So in response to what we were being offered, we created another new project called Thrive Connect. And basically we find ourselves in a privileged position of being a cosmic dating service where we're able to start connecting investors and philanthropists with innovators, not only in energy, but in medicine, in health, in water revitalization, in decontamination, who have projects or technologies which they are concerned would probably be suppressed, on the one hand. And secondly, almost all of them really need money. And so we have gathered a team and we have vetting teams, we have legal teams, we have business advisors and so forth, and we're building out the infrastructure to be able to help those people effectively, because that's a lot of what's needed, for instance, to get these technologies out. It's not enough to just have a technology. You need to have your situation secured. You need to have legal advice so you don't get yourself into trouble, and if somebody does a frivolous lawsuit, you can protect yourself. You need to have interpersonal skills, because oftentimes these inventors are absolutely brilliant and their social skills haven't been developed. So these fabulous earth-changing projects bog down in not having effective conflict resolution. As well, you need win-win business plans, and you need distribution and marketing models. So that's what we're looking to help out with, and we have a tremendous amount that is gathering, ready to go. We've had some success already in hooking up individual investors or philanthropists and inventors, but the main thing we're doing is looking to play at a very large scale. And so we have been approached by some people of tremendous financial capacity who are really good people, the kind of people you would want to have as part of your project. And they want to help projects out, and they've got enough money that in some cases they'll just give it away. If the inventors are willing to give their stuff away, they'll give the money away. If there's an investment situation, then they're just looking for fair participation so that everything is balanced. But that is coming together now. It is not fully landed. It's not something that I'm ready to explain the details to, because it just creates too much premature anticipation. But I've never been more excited, actually, about the potential for these fields of energy and health and agriculture and so forth being empowered at an absolutely historic and unprecedented level, and very soon.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever read the works of Walter Russell?
Yes, I was immersed in Walter Russell for about 25 years. I've been back to Swannanoa and have multiple signed copies of his various books, him and Lau, his wife. And I would say that the scientists who have most influenced my own work, because I really came into this as a scientist, have been Arthur Young, Walter Russell, Buckminster Fuller, and then more recently Nassim Haramein. Mm-hmm. To me, they're all what I call visionary scientists. They all saw how the universe works, and then have been willing to put in the work to try to figure out how to explain that to other scientists, inventors, and so forth, and to put it in layman's terms for the world. So, yeah, I owe a great and ongoing debt of gratitude to Walter Russell.
Is just for the young people out there, could you name maybe like 3 top books that the young people should be reading today so they can get closer to where we should be?
Well, of course it depends on what your area of interest is, but for me, the most important conversation on planet Earth right now is the conversation around true liberty. And most people are, oh yeah, liberty, I know about that. That's the Constitution, and that's patriotism, and you know, that's paying your taxes and all that kind of stuff. Well, how's that working out for us? And so we covered that a little bit in Thrive and in quite a bit of depth on the website, and I'm writing a book on it right now, because I think that the fate of humanity hangs in the balance of whether or not we get one fundamental principle, which is the principle of non-aggression, or the principle of non-violation. I don't get to hurt you or take your stuff, and you don't get to me either. Now, if you're attacking me, I get to do whatever I need to do to defend myself, but otherwise, no one gets to harm anyone or steal from them. And it's the one principle that we've found everywhere we've been, everybody agrees to. And it's not easy to find unanimous agreement about anything. Now, people agree to that for themselves, but I've run into actually quite a few people, shockingly, who are willing to admit that, yeah, I don't want to be violated, but given how enlightened I am, I should be telling most people what to do. Given how rich I am, obviously I'm more successful than others, so I should be leading them, that type of thing. And it's literally taken us to the brink of disaster. So to come back to your question, there are many, there's a whole bibliography on our website of Liberty books, but probably the most, now I would say the 2 most important books that I have read on the subject, which are both short, pretty easy reads. Well, they're easy in terms of there's not a lot of words, but in terms of challenging your worldview, you know, look out. Fasten your seatbelt. But these two books will show you a way through that just gave me tremendous relief. And one of them is by Larkin Rose, a book called The Most Dangerous Superstition. And it's about how government is the most dangerous concept on the planet, and it's, you know, that's proven throughout history. It's killed more people and imprisoned and tortured and all that than anyone else, and stolen, you know, untold resources. But the most dangerous superstition, he says, is our believing in it, believing that there is such a thing as government, as opposed to a bunch of people with, you know, lapel pins and gavels and shiny badges and guns, really. And so he lays it out, how fundamental that superstition is, and then how that plays out in the actual lives of the politicians, the judges, the police officers, and so forth, and then how it plays out in our lives, and then really goes into a very brilliant description of how the world could look and some suggestions about how we could get there. And then the other, I would say my two favorite philosophers in this area are Larkin Rose and a man named Stefan Molyneux. He's a Canadian, he was a software programmer, but he was really a passionate actor, debater, and his real calling in life is philosophy, particularly the philosophy of liberty. And he is highly trained in economics and history and all this stuff, so he can put it together in a way that I've never seen. And he has done, I think, about 7 different books that are all available for free online at freedomainradio.com. But the two that I would recommend starting with are Practical Anarchy and Everyday Anarchy. Now, this is not anarchy like, you know, blood in the streets and everybody's allowed to go around injuring people. No, this is simply the lack of authoritarian rule. What, you know, what could it be like, and how does that apply to roads and schools and taking care of poor people? And when I read those books, it's just like, oh, thank goodness. There's not only a way out, but it's so far better than anything we've come up with so far. So I would say those in the liberty area. And then if someone's really serious in the science area, I recommend Synergetics by Bucky Fuller, The Secret of Light, or The Universal One by Walter Russell. With Arthur Young, I recommend The Reflexive Universe, subtitled The Evolution of Consciousness. And I recommend that people sit down and watch Nassim Haramein's video, The Black Hole, or Crossing the Event Horizon.
What's your feeling about entheogens like ayahuasca, where people drink this potion from South America and they run into a spirit guide and they possibly meet the creator? What's your take on all that?
Well, I think that there's a wonderful book which I gave each of my kids when they got into their early teenage years called From Chocolate to Morphine by Andrew Weil, Dr. Andrew Weil. And he points out in there that every single culture on the entire planet throughout recorded history has had some sort of mind-altering substance. So there must be something there if everyone throughout history has been exploring it. And for me, the key that he really spells out well in that book is the difference between use and abuse. Because if you're mature about it, if you wait till you're old enough that you have some sense of really who you are, it's going to take you a lot deeper into who you think you are. And yet, it can be very risky. I have met so many people who've been seriously damaged by doing very strong substances in the wrong setting or just doing them too much. And so I personally have benefited from occasional use over the decades that has shown me possibilities. Everybody could interpret, you know, if you meet entities or you hear voices or whatever interpretation you put on that is ultimately not going to matter as much as, did you get a message that was of value to you, and are you integrating that into your life? And so I see people opening their worldviews in ways that is more challenging to do in other things. You can do it through sports, you can do it through meditation, you can do it through music, you can do it through dance. Whatever form of meditation and getting into the zone where portals open up. I had a company in Silicon Valley for 8 years called Mind Center, where there were no drugs involved. We had brainwave biofeedback training that trained people through feedback to get to different frequencies. and different levels of hemispheric synchronization. And the people who are very adept have got a whole map of this. You get to certain frequencies and balance the hemispheres of the brain, doorways open up. And it takes you to realms of tremendous healing, tremendous intuition, tremendous telepathy, tremendous knowledge of the vastness of and the oneness of the universe. So I think there's a tremendous gift in that needs to be approached with respect and humility and great care. You know, do your homework before experimenting with those, and make sure that you're ready and you have the set and setting which can really support it, if it interests you at all.
What were your impressions after looking at Frequency of Genius?
Well, first of all, that you guys did your homework and took a lot of care to make a beautiful movie. And not just beautiful in terms of the camera work and editing and that kind of stuff, but beautiful in the sense of your reverence for and honoring of the human spirit. And that you shone the light on a few people, but not just as, oh, these are the special humans, not like the rest of us peons, but no, this is what's possible for all of us.
Thank you. I'll open up for questions for you, and then if you want to proceed with the last thing that we wanted to talk about.
If this was going out right now to worldwide, to the world, and you had a minute to get out your message, what would it be right now?
What a great opportunity. The core of my message is that we need to wake up to wholeness. And in our film we symbolize it with the torus. And it turns out that the universe at every level that we can detect so far, when it's looking to sustain a healthy system, it's always toroidal. It's not like just, oh, this is a cute pattern that's used. No, if it's going to be sustainable, it's going to be toroidal. And given that our evolutionary imperative is to find a way to sustainably coexist with each other and create sustainable systems, the torus is an incredible blueprint. So all of the solutions that we're working with are based on wholeness. Restoring the wholeness of food, restoring the wholeness of an ecosystem. Then you don't have to worry, you don't have to deal with all these pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, all that kind of stuff. It's restoring the wholeness of a money system, where it's honest and transparent and simply represents an honest exchange of value instead of a few people having the right to or at least the power to monopolize it and destroy other people's lives. And when it comes to free energy, so given that we're at an energy conference here, I've had the opportunity to visit many, many, many successful labs. And what I said in the movie has only held true with all the labs I've seen in the last 2 years, which is everyone who is being successful is somehow honoring and mimicking the toroidal vorticular form, and then learning to humbly resonate with it. And rather than crushing or combusting or exploding or fusing or fizzing, all this macho stuff we've been doing to energy all along, that needs to just be let go of forever. And because it's taken us to the brink of destroying life as we know it. All these technologies are somehow dancing with what the universe is doing already. And then just like, you know, musicians know that when you tune your guitars together, you start getting resonant effects that are greater, like Bucky said, the synergy is the greater than the sum of the parts. And that's the same thing that I'm seeing with the best of these technologies, is they're intimate with the universe, and they're respectful, so that they're, in a sense, inviting the sharing of energy. And usually the challenge in the early stages is, how are we going to govern down this vast flow of energy that wants to come through? And then there are some of the technologies, they're starting to call them load following, where you plug in, a hairdryer or a drill or a light or something like that, and the more devices you plug in, the more energy it gives out, which is exactly the opposite of the way all of our motor generators work so far. So something is going on there where, when you're respectful of this absolutely miraculous world that we live in, and learn the principles, learn the geometries and so forth, and then create that kind of beauty in an intentional way, the universe will give you back exactly what you need, whether it's technological or emotional or mental or spiritual.
Thank you.
So that's a long 1 minute, but I couldn't resist.
That was very nice.
That happens every time. And I think of Dr. Seuss real quickly, and I think of the Lorax, and that made an impression on me when I was a kid, when I read that. And I was like, you know, let's not destroy the environment and all that. And I think what Dr. Seuss did was brilliant in the fact that he hit a young generation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really when we reflect, and my brother and I were thinking, you know, we really got a generation changes from the young kids, the teenagers, young kids, that, you know, that's where you're going to affect change, because so many of people in our age, you know, they're stuck in their ways, and a whole new generation has to come in and say, okay, this is what's possible, something new.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what your movie spoke to, obviously. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to focus on. That's our path, is like, you know, reaching out to the young people and saying, this is what's possible.
Yeah, no, that's great, because when we did our very first shoot for Thrive, I think back in 2005 or something like that, it was at an ecology conference in Santa Barbara, where college kids who were interested in environmentalism and so forth had come together with a lot of people like Elizabeth Sahtouris and Vandana Shiva and other luminaries in that field. So we interviewed a bunch of the pioneers, and then we interviewed 20 of the college students. And we asked them all 2 questions, and one of the questions was, share with us your vision of how it could be on planet Earth. And out of 20 bright, educated, motivated activists, only 2 of them could come up with and voice a positive vision.
Mm-hmm.
And Kimberly and I were like, oh my gosh, this dumbing down is working. They've got these kids terrified, so they can't even envision anymore.
Yeah.
And so one of our most heartwarming things is when young people approach us, and it's happened a couple of times at the conference here, and said, there's this one kid that said, I was sitting on my couch playing video games, smoking weed, and I didn't care anymore at all. And then somebody gave me Thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And now the guy is actually studying the legal system and how can we transform that. And you know, we just gave him Danny Sheehan's new book called The People's Advocate, and that's the kind of story where media like what you're doing and what we're doing, if it can facilitate that for the next generation, that's incredible. That's a mission fulfilled.
Awesome.
Well, we feel the same way.
Yeah.